Hi everyone, welcome to this class. We shall be looking at appreciation and depreciation. And as you can see from the notes, appreciation is the increase in value of an asset or an item. Depreciation can also be defined as the loss in value of an asset. If you buy an asset, which of course keeps on reducing its value, then we say it's undergoing depreciation process. But if you buy an item which you can sell more than you bought, then it means that that particular item is appreciating, and that process through which an item increases in price or in value, we call it appreciation. So we shall take the first example. The first example reads, an iron box costs 500 shillings every year. It depreciates. An iron box costs 500 shillings. Every year, it depreciates by 10% of its value at the beginning of that year. What will its value be after 4 years? So basically, that statement means that at the start of every year, that this particular item was depreciating by 10%. So every 10%, or the value drops by 10% of every year. And remember, we're going to do it by compound interest formula, whereby it's going to be reducing. After every year, it reduces by 10%. So we shall take that first example. The first thing we will do is to the first thing that we shall take is to extract the information that we have been given in the question. The first information I think we can pick from that is our solution. The first information we will pick is an iron, of course, our principal. The starting point is 500 shillings. That is where we start. We have also been told the rate is 10%. The rate is 10%. We have also been given the number of years. The number of years or time. Time is 4 years. So that is the information we can pick from that question. We can be able to pick that information. Then the next thing we will do, of course, is to apply these information in the compound interest formula. The compound interest formula, of course, will come later on. The first thing that we will do is this. We would say that the amount after the first year, we will look at the first year. We want to see the value these items will be having at the end of the first year. So what we will do is this amount. We know amount is given by principal plus interest. That is where we will take amount is equal to principal plus interest. This will be equal to, remember our principal is 500 plus interest. Interest is given by principal times rate. The rate we know is 10% all over 100 times 1. Remember, we are just interested with the first year. So this will be the same as, if you take 10% of this, you get 50. If you remember, it was depreciating. When it is depreciating, we subtract. For depreciation, you subtract. So if you subtract this, you will get 450 shillings. So at the end of the first year, this item will have dropped its value to 450. Let us look at what is happening in the second year. So in the second year, remember, we shall be using this value as the principal in the second year. So what will happen is the amount will be equal to still the principal minus the interest. The principal is 450 minus the interest or that loss, the loss, the depreciation. The interest in this case is what depicts the loss, will be given by the principal, which is 450, times the rate, which is 10 over 100, of course, times 1. If you take 10% of 450, you will get 45. Then this means that is the same as 450 minus 45. Of course, this gives us 450 minus 45. It gives us 405. 405 shillings. If we move to the third year, the same thing happens. Amount is equal to principal minus interest. We know the principal is 405 minus the interest will be the principal times the rate times 1. Remember, if you take 10% of these, you will get, if you take 10% of these, you will get 40.5. If you subtract 40.5 minus 40.5 from these, you will get amount will be equal to 405 minus 40.5, which is equal to 364.5. That is the value at the end of the third year. Remember, we are told after 4 years, so you look at the fourth year. You can look at the fourth year. The fourth year, amount will be equal to principal minus interest, which will be equal to, our principal is the current value in the third year, which is 364.5 minus 364.5 times 10% times 1. If you subtract that, you, of course, if you take 10% of 364.5, you will get 36.45. If you take that, you will get amount is equal to 364.5 minus 36.45, which gives us 328.05. So that is the amount of money you expect this iron to cost at the end of the fourth year. At the end of the fourth year, the iron box will have dropped its value to 328.05 shillings. That is what it will be costing at the end of that particular period. Remember, we can use the formula. Remember, this is just a successive method of doing it. You can decide to use the formula. And if you decide to use the formula, remember, we know amount is equal to principal into 1 minus r over 100 raised to n. When we talk about depreciation, the sign becomes, you take the compound interest formula and this sign changes to a minus. If it is appreciation, the sign remains to be a plus. But if it is depreciation, we use a minus sign. So remember, this one becomes, the principal was 500 into 1 minus 10% all over 100 raised to 4 years. If you evaluate this, our amount will be equal to 500 times, remember 10% is 0.1 minus this, you will get 0.9. This is the same as 0.9 raised to power 4. 0.9 raised to power 4. If you evaluate this value, that value, 0.9 raised to power 4, you will get 0.6561 times 500. Of course, you get the same answer, which is 328.05. 328.05 as the value that this iron box will be costing after 4 years. So that is what happens. Now that takes us to the next example, which is dealing with appreciation. Remember, the example we have done here is for depreciation. We want now to move to appreciation, and remember we are using two methods. The first method being the successive method of compound interest, whereby you take the interest, you add to the principal. But we have indicated you can directly take the compound interest formula, and of course take the appropriate caution. So we move to the next example, which is the initial cost of a ranch is 5 million. At the end of each year, the land value increases by 2%. What will be the value of the ranch at the end of 3 years? Remember, we have said appreciation is all about the value of an item increasing. That is what we call appreciation. And in this case, we have been told the land is appreciating by 2%. So what that means, you can use the two methods, and if you intend to use the compound interest formula, the sign is a positive because the land value is increasing. So we will start with the method whereby we will do it successively before we take the formula. So the first step there is to extract the information from the example. And we have been given the initial cost of a ranch is 5 million. That means the principal is 5 million. We have also been given the rate to be 2%. We have also been given the time, our time, which can also be written as n, is given as 3 years. The time, or n, is given as 3 years. We can start from the systematic method of doing this, whereby we say we assess the first year. What happened in the first year? In the first year, what happened is amount is equal to principal plus interest. This is the same as the principal is 5 million plus the interest is given by 5 million times the rate. Remember, our rate is 2/100 times 1. If you do that, if you take 2%, of this, you will be able to get 100,000. If you add 100,000 to this, you will get, remember, this one becomes 5 million plus 100,000. The answer becomes 5,100,000 as the amount in the first year. We move to the second year. In the second year, we shall use the amount in the first year as the principal in the second year. So that means amount will be equal to the principal, which is 5,100,000 plus 5,100,000. We take 5,100,000 100,000 times 2%. Of course, times 1. This gives us, if you take 2%, 2% of that value, you will get 5,100,000 plus 102,000. Of course, this gives us plus 51. It gives us 5,202,000 shillings. That is the amount in the second year. We move to the third year. In the third year, our amount will be equal to the principal. Remember, the principal is the current figure, which is 5,202,000 plus into brackets 5,202,000 times 2% times 1. So if you take 2% of that value, if you take 2% of this value, 52,202 times 2%, you will get it as 52,202 plus 104, 104,040. So if you sum up the two, plus 52,202,000 plus the answer, you'll get it as 54,000. You'll get it as 5,410 and 80. That is the figure that you are expected to get. After this, we can be able to check. If you take the first step, we have said, take the principal plus the interest in that value, you get this figure. After that, you will take this principal from the first year, then you take the 10%, the 2%, that is 5,100 times 2%. Of course, you get 102, which gives us this value. This is the value we will use in the third year. This is the value that we will get in the third year. After you take this one, you will get 2%. At 2%, then of course you sum up to 502. So if you add this, there seems to be a problem here in adding. You will get 53. You will get 53,06,040 as the total value. That is the total value you will get at the end of this particular year. So it means this land will cost 5,306,040 at the end of that particular 3 years. Remember, like we have said, you can also be able to take the formula directly, where we say amount is equal to principal into 1 plus r over 100 raised to n. And remember, we have said our principal is 5 million. We have also said the rate is 2%. We have also said our n is equal to 3. So our amount will be equal to principal, which is 5 million. 5 million into 1 plus the rate, which is 2 over 100 raised to 3. Remember, this will be equal to 5 million into 1.02 raised to 3. This will be the same as if you take 1.23, 1.02 raised to 3, you will get it as 5 million times 1.06. So if you multiply this by 5 million, the answer is 5,306,040. You still get the same answer. You still get the same answer. So whichever method you will use, the answer still becomes the same. And that is why we are saying you can use either method to solve this particular